ask is I was going to ask when we speak later if you could fill me in. I actually have to tap out. I have to get back to this meeting. I just wanted to greet you all and, and that sort of thing. So is that okay?
I just want to ask if you can hear me. If you hear me, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Baba David, we can hear you. I think that we would normally have you introduce yourself first, but it sounds like Charles is in a little bit of a rush. Charles, did you want to start us off? If you could just tell us who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Yes, my name is Charles Ewing. I'm helping Baba Shango with the William H. Thomas Gallery here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm the director right now. So we have a more extensive conversation to have. And I apologize to everybody up front because I am in a pre-scheduled meeting with my other business group. And I have to get back to that. But I'm asking that you guys, be patient with me, forgive me, and then I will speak with you, sis, a little bit later this afternoon.
Absolutely. It looks like you're in a studio. If I know my studios correctly, then I know what a sound booth looks like. And I know that time is money when you're in a studio. And so I understand this conversation will be recorded. And so we'll make sure to send a copy of the recording. Today, we're going over the curriculum overview and what that looks like. And we'll make sure that you and Baba Shango have a copy of that. And today we have Baba Coyote to, kind of help guide the conversation in terms of content. So I'm sure we're in good hands.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you.
No problem. If you're able to stick around to hear introductions, that's great. If not, you'll hear them in the recording.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta forward, but I apologize and peace and blessing to everybody. One love and happy Sundays.
Yes, happy Sunday.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
All right. And so I just want to keep the basket going. I'd like to pass the basket to our elder, Baba David Coyote. If you could just do a basic introduction of who you are and tell us about your passion for carving, and then we'll continue. Thank you all again for your patience.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Thank you all. My name is Reverend Dr. David Babajide Kayode. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I've been in US for over 4 decades. And I've been involved in many things while in the United States. I'm part of the system. I live in New York. I'm a politician in the borough of Queens. I'm a clergy advisor to the DA of Queens and advisor to the mayor of New York as well. And when it comes to social life, I believe to improve the life of the young one. That is why I get into politics, to be able to move up to enlighten the young one, to move them from street corner to where they can do something meaningful. And I will tell you a little bit about my carving experience, which I started when I was young, very young, that I developed it on my own until I become perfect in what I'm doing. And I didn't do anything about carving for almost probably over 40 years. But during the COVID-19, my youngest son asked me that, Daddy, but you say you are a good carver. We saw it in your picture, you talk about it. Why you don't do it now when you're not doing anything? I said, I don't even have tools. And my son went to buy tools. They go and buy, they went to the Home Depot to buy the canopy where I can stay under. And that is how I started. And I do so much things that when I call people to come and see what I'm doing, or I put it on a video on YouTube or wherever, people doesn't believe that I can do it because of my involvement. both politically and socially. But it's what I'm doing. And when my sister, Miss Paul, get in touch with me through one of my son, Tope, from Washington, D.C., that they will want to see if I can be part of something that will help the younger one during the summer. And they explained to me fully, and I said, okay, I will be part of it once they can arrange how they will be able to accommodate me. So, and I met Sister Kim in person in a United Nations program. We met in person because I always like to meet people that I want to deal with in person. I don't believe in talking on phone alone or like a robot. So we meet, and I agree to be part of what she's doing. And that is how far we have gone. Unfortunately, my daughter Fola lives in Maryland as well, and she is highly capable, somebody that always do something. That will be, I'm very sure it will be someone that Sister Kim will be proud to know, because she's able, capable, and her passion is to help people. And I think she's doing a PhD now in mental health, and she knows so much about drug issue, because that is my profession, where I retire as in 2 years in a row in the state of New York, not city of New York. I was the best. And the governor by then gave me proclamation. So that is why I went to Nigeria in December to launch foundation with another partner from Europe. We launched White Rock Addiction Foundation. As a matter of fact, we just got our office. So now I want you to let me limit it so I don't take your time, because they say don't give preacher or politician a microphone because they don't know how to stop. So
Yeah, no, Baba, we need all of your words of wisdom, especially on a happy Sunday like this. But I didn't realize that you were going to give us the entire history. But I'm glad that you did, because it laid a really strong foundation. But I did want to pass the basket so that we can continue with introductions. I want to pass it to Mama Kiki at the Sankofa Children's Museum in my hometown of Baltimore, right here in Park Heights. Mama Kiki, if you could just introduce yourself and the work of the Sankofa Children's Museum.
I'll be glad to. So I'm also from the continent of Africa, from Ghana, and I have lived here a long time. It's been past time to go back, but I find myself here continuing, actually starting new work, which is the Children's Museum. The Children's Museum, we created, my husband and I, and a few very wonderful, dedicated people. We started the museum because we saw a need for our brothers and sisters here in the US, and actually even African children born here who do not have any connections to the continent, to learn the history and the stories, the real true stories about Africa and its history. So that is what we do now. Now, in terms of the work that Kim is doing, she started talking to my husband, who is the curator of the Sankofa Children's Museum, before I met her. And she was taken in by all his knowledge of African art, much more than I know, for real, not much more than I know, because as I like to explain to people, when I was growing up, African art was not a thing in any Christian home. We were forbidden to learn about African art because we had been convinced that it was idol worship. But my husband came to this with as a blank slate. He knew nothing. He did not have any preconceived ideas about anything. He learned about it. He got very, very good at it. And when he's not at work, I don't even open the gallery doors because I don't feel qualified to answer questions for people who are interested in knowing. So anyway, I think as far as this work is concerned, he's going to be working more closely with your clients, the students, this summer, because he'll be teaching them about the art more so than I do. Anyway, we have Sister Stephanie on the call also, and she will introduce herself. She's our newly minted executive director. So there you go.
Thank you, Esther. So I too am from the continent. Baltimore has become my second home. I've been living in Dakar, Senegal for the past 35 years over. I've also lived in Ghana. I've lived in Kenya and Tanzania. And I'm back in Baltimore, so it's like I'm doing a 360-degree full circle. But for over 30 years now, I've been working with children in Dakar. I founded a bilingual school with 9 preschoolers, and it grew into a school of 1,200 students with excellent exam results due to our integrated arts program. I also chose in my last years at the school, the still is continuing with my daughter, under my daughter's leadership, but to teach history. So my love for the arts and my love for African history, I feel like really I have come 360-degree full circle, and I'm really looking forward to the program that you are doing and feel honored to be able to learn and also to share my experiences of having lived on the continent with the Children's Museum of African Culture here in Baltimore with Mama Kiki.
Absolutely. We also have with us the president of our organization right here in Baltimore, Baba Hakiyami. And before I get started, I wanted to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. Fola, I know that you're driving and en route, but I also wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. I believe in making it a family affair. And I love the fact that you are here supporting your dad as a carver. He's our elder. We're holding him up. He's the expert, and you're here with him. To me, we're not just carving artifacts. African art is a reflection of our family environment. It's an extension of our appreciation for nature. And so the fact that you're here is symbolic for me, and it's also very important, literally, logistically for us. Fola, did you want to introduce yourself or say a few words? I see that you came on camera or opened your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Let me just share audio. That's better. Okay, I'm Fola Coyote, the eldest daughter of Reverend Dr. David Coyote. I'm sorry, trying to multitask. I'm here just to support him. I'm here in the DMV area as well. I am a mental health clinician. I work for the Department of Health and Human Services. I do a lot of things. I also host and MC events. I have a photo booth business as well here. I just here to be a support and help my dad the best way I can. So I'll just be here however I can help, or if there's other things that I can do to support the mission and all of the work that you all are doing, I'm here to help with that as well.
Thank you, Fola. I appreciate that. Black families matter. And so thank you for being the daughter. It matters. Haki, did you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Well, thank you. And Hakiyami, everybody. I looking forward to connecting with you all. I've been in with the Teaching Arts Institute for about 4 years. We've done a lot of work in Africa and literally all over, in the United States. So I'm just going to sit and listen a lot and just really listen. I've heard a lot and been reading all of the emails and everything. So I'm familiar. And so I would just want to get caught up with what you all have going on. So looking forward to supporting your work greatly. So I'll just be listening in, and I'll chime in if I want to, say anything else. But you all have some good initiative, and we support it. So thank you.
Perfect. So I just want to start with the basics. Everyone knows this, but just for all the folks at home, we know that today's conversation is about our inaugural Creative Carvers and Carpenters Initiative. And we know that that's a cross-cultural carpentry apprenticeship in an expeditionary learning environment. But I want to unpack that just a bit before we get to the logistics. It's so important that we are showing young people the indigenous lens on the skills that it takes to rebuild and revitalize the housing infrastructure in our neighborhoods. For us as an organization, the Teaching Artists Institute, one of our primary institutions is based in Park Heights alongside the Sankofa Children's Museum. And we're on Oswego, a small street that is maybe walking distance, and the dilapidation, the blight, the buildings that really are a result of the functional obsolescence in our communities in Baltimore, a result of years and generations of redlining and, the block busting and all the institutions that have been created with intention to ensure that our communities in Park Heights are destabilized. What we realized in that community is that art and culture is the answer. It is the artist as a creator that can be the solution to the housing crisis in our community. And so the question is, how this summer can our Creative Carvers and Carpenters program be a part of the solution? It means that we're going to use our youth as resources to the community. We need to first give them an overview of the history. How did we get here? And we need to do that alongside a history of our people that began before our current living condition, before our current circumstance. We want to teach young people to get back into the trades. We want them to know that, guess what? A plumber, electrician, a carpenter, these are the trades that are going to be needed moving into our future. Those that have the skills to start small businesses. But we want to make sure that when you consider these fields of study, that you're doing it from the perspective of your own cultural lens. We want you to understand that our people, Black and brown people, we've always been carvers. And for us, we don't call it carpentry. We don't call it STEAM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. For us, this is art. This is spirit. When we look at the genius of the pyramids in Kemet, or what they also call Egypt, those structures that still stand today, from Imhotep, the first multi-genius. When we look at these structures, when we look at Timbuktu and the libraries in Timbuktu, when we look at the Great Wall in Benin, in Nigeria, that fortress that protected Baba Kayode, shout out again to Nigeria. When we think about these things, that was art and it had a function. And so the question is, this summer with the Creative Carvers and Carpenters program, how can we begin to connect the conversations between traditional arts and carpentry and our community housing crisis, right? And so this is a new conversation, but we have started by developing a basic curriculum overview. And so we're going to go through our 4-week program today. And today's conversation is about getting you all's feedback on what should be included in that curriculum overview so that we can now find what we need to make sure that in our first year, we're at least giving young people an introduction to these topics. We all know logistically that the young people participating are going to be paid for this experience through the Youth Works program with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. We all know that we're going to provide them with an opportunity for expeditionary learning. In the Teaching Artists Institute, we know the importance of travel. Learning doesn't happen inside of the 4 walls of a classroom. It happens in the world, out in the world where we're living. And so our job as instructors are to create experiences and opportunities for young people to ultimately teach themselves. And so we're going to take a swing in Baltimore, in the environment that they're born and raised in, many of them. And then we're going to take another swing in Columbus, Ohio, where we can show them this same conversation from a different vantage point, hoping that if they don't catch it here in Baltimore, perhaps in another environment with different stimuli, perhaps they'll catch it there. And so we're also going to bring in the Native American and the indigenous community, their understanding of carving and what that looks like as it relates to their worldview and the built landscape, so that we can acknowledge the Turtle Island, the land that we stand on, right? And so we're going to talk a little about that in the curriculum, and right now I'm going to share it. I also want to be cognizant of your time because it's now 2:48, and I want to make sure that we're out of here by 3 o'clock. And so we're going to go through this fast, but it is recorded. And so feel free to stop me if I say something or if I go too fast. It's okay. Stop me. I'll stop and include. And so I'm going to share that link. So hopefully you all can see my screen. We're starting with a basic overview of the type of young person that we're looking for. And so this is a job description. We want the young people to take us serious. We want them to take themselves seriously. And though we're not creating an environment that isn't hands-on, that isn't engaging and stimulating, we also want them to know that serious doesn't mean that we can't have fun, and discipline doesn't mean that it's not fun. And so we want a disciplined environment, one where they're taking their learning journey or their fun-filled learning journey very seriously. And so we've created a job description for the young people. And basically, we want them to train as creative carpenter under the guidance of master carvers, art historians, and carpenters, gaining practical skills in curatorial carpentry. So notice that we're creating new terms, right? We're okay with that. In the Teaching Artists Institute, we understand that language defines reality, and the culture of our organization is going to be communicated through the language that we use to describe it. And so we're very okay with creating new words and creating new terms. And so if you hear a term today that you aren't familiar with, it's not because you're not a genius. It's because we've probably created something. And so we're creating what we're calling curatorial carpentry. And so curatorial carpentry, while learning about the historical and cultural significance of woodworking, ideal candidates are provided practical carpentry skills alongside a deepened understanding of the cultural heritage and the socioeconomic factors affecting Black and Brown communities in urban environments. So that's a really heavy lift, but it's easier to show you better than I can tell you with just one walk down Oswego to the Sankofa Children's Museum. The symbolic landscape of our environment could help us to better understand the bridge between these two seemingly distant concepts. So the responsibilities of the participants, that they participate actively in all educational workshops and hands-on carpentry and carving sessions, that they engage with lessons on the history of redlining and block busting, understanding this impact on community housing and urban development for Black and Brown communities, that they learn and apply carpentry skills in designing and building community housing projects for the Teaching Artists Institute and Residence Program. Let me stop there. Understand that we are actively using youth as resources to our community. The Teaching Artists Institute, we have our very first artist in residence property on Oswego in Park Heights. And right now we're working as we speak with the Neighborhood Design Center to acquire 3 more properties on our same block that we can renovate and expand. And we're talking to our young people not about hypothetical worlds. We're talking about using their minds and their skills and their creativity as a resource right now to the development of our potentially, I'll say maybe within the year, expanded artist in residence program in Park Heights. And we're going to include that conversation into our creative Carvers and Carpenters program for this summer. Next up, young people, we're expecting them to explore woodworking through an African and Indigenous cultural lens, appreciating and applying traditional techniques and motifs. And last but not least, we want them to collaborate on community projects and participate in team discussions and planning sessions around placemaking and neighborhood design. And so, of course, we know that the program is July 8th through August 8th, and the location, various workshops and community project sites within and outside of the affected neighborhoods. And the requirement is that they're simply interested in art history, carpentry, and community development. They must be committed to full participation throughout the program duration. And so the young people, they've already seen this job description, this apprenticeship description. This is what was communicated with the YouthWorks office, with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. And so we're hoping that even though we don't have a history with these young people and that we don't know them, that they have chosen this opportunity because on some level, they're interested in at least one of these areas. Fingers crossed. We're hoping that they do. The good thing is that the young people that are coming from Ohio, again, that intercultural communication, one region to another, that are going to be meeting with the young people in Baltimore. The Ohio team does have a history of working with these young people from Ohio. And so we're hoping that between the B&O Railroad, or our Baltimore youth, and our Ohio youth, will create a nice, familiar, comfortable environment. And so here we have 5 weeks that are really serving as the overview of our curriculum. Again, this is our first year. We don't have all the answers. We as an organization, as the Teaching Artists Institute, we know what our community needs to best support our ideal of exploring the art of possibility, art as a way of life, and art for social transformation. So we have built the Creative Carvers and Carpenters program out of a need in our organization's mission. We need these young people to exist and to understand the connections between their history and the built landscapes that they live in, and have the skills to actually be a part of shaping that. And so the curriculum work or framework is hopefully a reflection of that, but this is a part of the conversation where we want you all to tune in, where we want you to say, oh, we think that works, or maybe it doesn't. So we have our Baba David Coyote, history in carving, a background in mental health and wellness, and has done a lot of things in shaping the symbolic landscape in New York City from a Nigerian perspective. That's 2 cultures, understanding both. We've got Baba Shango, certified a master plumber and carpenter, but also he's a carver and created the William H. Gallery in the Hood. and has renovated many houses in the Columbus neighborhood. And then, of course, we've got Baba Jim over at Sankofa that understands the history of Black and Brown carvings and sculptures and art in general, that's going to help lay a strong foundation for many of these lessons. But this is our understanding of what all three of those experts look like on paper. So you guys feel free to cut me off, tell me what you think. In week 1, we want to do an introduction to carpentry and community history. Day 1, orientation, introduction to the goals of the Teaching Artists Institute Artists in Residence program and the relevance of the program to the community issues in Park Heights. We want to let them know the goal in the beginning. What is the goal? Where's the goalposts? What are we trying to do here? This is not just another summer job. You're not pushing papers. You're not cutting grass. You're not babysitting for a younger generation and doing a program. This is not the nonprofit industrial complex. You're not coming here to punch a clock or to get a paycheck. We are to help us solve this problem, this real issue in our community. And through your education, hopefully, if you're committed to this program, you'll walk away with something that will one day be a major resource to this problem, real problem that we're having. And we want to talk about that right out the gate on day 1. Day 2 and 3, basic African art history, carpentry skills, safety, and tool usage. Day 4, lecture on the history of redlining and block busting. Day 5, introduction to cultural significance in woodworking, focusing on African and indigenous traditions. So that sums up our first week. Notice that we'll spend our first 10 days in Baltimore in Sankofa Children's Museum. But just because our programming is primarily happening in the Sankofa Children's Museum, it's not going to be inside of those 4 walls, or they have a couple more than 4 walls. They've got a very large facility, but it won't happen primarily inside. We want to have this invisible wall, this community inside and out, inside once out, right? And so we're going to be also using the community as a part of our teaching tools, but we will usually either begin or end our conversation inside of the Sankofa Children's Museum. Week 2, we're going to be deepening historical and cultural content. Day 1 to 2, we're going to have hands-on carpentry. So this is right around the time where we're going to start talking about our transition to the Ohio region. So the first portion is going to be theoretical. It's going to be things that are traditional arts integration. We love African-centered learning, and that means using manipulatives. That means kinesthetic learning, moving and doing things that engage all of your senses. And you'll see some of that in our first week, and it'll be very theoretical. The second week, we start to get hands-on. And this is the part of the time where we begin to transition and prepare the young people for their travel. They'll go to Ohio to do a lot of their hands-on primary focus on their hands-on carving and woodworking under Baba Shango's leadership. And of course, Baba David Coyote will also be there. And so day 1 through 2, hands-on carpentry skills with emphasis on techniques from African and indigenous traditions. Day 3, cultural immersion experience in local historical sites related to urban development and housing. That's because Baba Shango has already done what we would like to do in Park Heights. He has already renovated an entire neighborhood. He is in his late 70s, started off as a plumber, transitioned into being a carpenter, and then now buying and renovating many properties in the same neighborhood and now having the art gallery. We want to show these young people that we're not talking about what could be. We're talking about how to duplicate what has already happened. Day 4 through 5, workshops on the cultural history of woodworking and its role in community identity and architecture. we're not just talking about creating more of the same. We see the vinyl tracted wasteland and this geography of nowhere that speaks to no one's culture, that doesn't reinforce any spiritual ideology or sacred geometry. We're not looking to teach young people the same carpentry that's already being taught in classrooms. We want them to innovate. What is next? How can we bring about the Wakanda? Right? Is it real? It can be if they imagine it to be, and if they have the skills to actually build this type of landscape. And so we want them to begin to connect the role of identity and the conversation around identity and architecture in the same conversation. Week 3, design and blueprint development. Advancing carpentry techniques, begin blueprint designs for community housing. This is when we invite in the Neighborhood Design Center. This is at the end of our program where we're now asking them to be a part of the solution. And we're literally looking at the dilapidation right here on Oswego and how they can be a part of helping us to remedy that. We'll do a seminar on sustainable building and environmental conditions. Can we continue to use the same toxic ingredients in our construction, in our communities? We know that Baltimore has some of the worst air quality, that they're burning trash and it's causing asthma in our young people, that incinerator is downtown Baltimore written on it. And that's something that we're not even acknowledging. We know that in our community, we have some of the worst water quality. And that's because they're lead poisoning our water. And we need to talk to our young people about this, why we are having these issues. And so sustainable building and environmental considerations, we're going to talk with our young people about that. And then detailed study of architectural blueprints, integrated learning, learned carpentry skills and historical insights. And then in our last week, construction begins. So day 1 through 2, introduction to specialized wood carving techniques under the guidance of master carvers. Apprentice begin practical work on interior design elements that will be used in the Teaching Artists Institute Artists in Residence community housing design. So we know that at the end of our summer, our young people are not going to be able to build or renovate a whole house, but they will be able to carve something that can actually be used. And so we don't know if that's going to be a small chair or a small bench, but Ya Asantewa's stool. Maybe they can get to the point where they can carve Ya Asantewa's stool from the Ashanti Kingdom, or perhaps there's a small wooden drum that is a model, or a unity stand or a unity cup. Perhaps there is something that they can literally design before the 4-week period is over. And that's where our master carvers come in, so that they can say, hey, you have all these concepts. Now let's give you a practical that brings all of those concepts in a confluence. And now you've created something tangible that we can actually display and use for our program moving forward. And then day 3, a detailed session on the artistic and cultural significance of patterns, designs emphasizing African and Indigenous influences. Day 4, community engagement session to present initial designs and receive feedback. Ensure the designs resonate and culturally and aesthetically with the community. This is where we're hoping that Sankofa will come in for our last session so that we can do something for the community, bring them into the conversation. Our young people, sometimes that intergenerational dialogue is essential, and we want to create an intentional space to have that conversation. Day 5, application of feedback into design enhancements, focusing on refining carving techniques and artistic expression, so that they can listen to the community in real time and say, how can we really use what the community just told us? The program is not over. We're going to listen. This is not a show and tell. This is not to show the community what we did. This is to really have a focus group with community and say, what do you think? How can we include your voice with intention? And then our final time together, we will have a complete construction design model and blueprint. That's our goal. Sometimes we meet our goals, sometimes we don't, and that's okay. Day 4, preparation for our final presentation, review of historical and cultural studies and context. And Day 5, presentation of projects to the community, discussion of apprentices' learning journey, and their contribution to addressing the housing crisis. And so I know we went through that very quickly. Don't worry, you will get a copy of it. The last day, we want to record the young people's experience through the process. We want them to let us know what they thought went well and what didn't, and if they would consider staying in this field of study. And if they do, then we may consider working with them and doing that beyond just this summer. See this summer as a pilot. It's just an inaugural program. It's our chance to see, is this feasible? Is this something that the community needs? Do we have what we need in our elder class to actually teach these lessons? I'll tell you that some conversations are time sensitive. When I was growing up, my father was a carpenter, and I watched him develop and renovate so many houses across Baltimore City. And it seemed that every Black man of a certain age had these skills. He knew how to do certain things, like basic low-hanging fruit things, change a tire, hang a picture, use a hammer. And in this day and age, technology has become the standard. And so now it doesn't seem that young men or women have these basic, what I would call low-hanging fruit skills, because it seems that maybe computer coding or email, I don't know, but it seems to be a changing of the guard. There's a paradigm shift. And I think we need both and. And so this program is an opportunity for us to explore all these topics. And we shared our curriculum overview with you all today, hoping that you can give feedback and that you can weigh in as experts to help us decide which direction we should go into so that we can begin to build out our workbook and have that printed in time for the summer. And so I want to stop talking now. I know I went very quickly, but I want to stop and give you an opportunity to weigh in.
So Kim, this is Mama Kiki. Because we had to rush through this, I think you should give us a few days to, check out the recording again. Or I know that you have sent this outline to us by email, haven't you?
No, ma'am, not yet.
No?
This is
Okay.
only a draft.
Okay.
And so I was hoping that I would shape what would be more final based on this conversation, but I can also email the draft and send it to all of you along with this recording so that you can hear some of the commentary around the draft and we can go from there.
Okay, and perhaps we either do a group texting or a Google Drive and, submit our comments and perhaps discuss them before the next meeting if you're planning another one soon.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll do that. I'll make sure that we have our collective Google Drive, and I'll send the draft along with that and a copy of this recording. Baba David Coyote, is there anything that you see right off that maybe I should include?
Well, what do you think you want me to do? So are we able to do it? Anything you ask me to do, I will do it. I don't have problem to do that.
Thank you, Baba. I think, did I see another? Yes, ma'am.
So a question, again, how many children will be involved in the project? Is it 20?
So 20 is a bit much. We're looking for 10 from Baltimore and 10 from Ohio, but that is our goal, hoping that maybe we have maybe around 15. And
Okay.
so, but we did open it for 20. We know that from the YouthWorks program that we have a limit of 10. And so,
yeah. So my next question is, so what I've understood is they each will have an individual project that they will either have a design for at the end, and they'll explain why they chose that project, and they'll have kind of like a design of how to make it, as opposed to them necessarily being finished with the having a finished product. Is that correct?
no, we're hoping that by the end of the actual initiative that they have a tangible carving. They
And
have
it will be
carved.
an individual carving, because we're emphasizing so much community, and it looks like they're going to be getting their inspiration from visiting these dilapidated homes.
So we're hoping that their inspiration is from the master carvers that they're working with, and from the historic carvers that they'll be introduced to through understanding traditional art at the museums and at the gallery.
But at the
And so
same
that's
time,
the inspiration.
at the same time, that's their inspiration. Okay, I got that. However, they're going to be visiting blighted neighborhoods in blight and different dilapidated homes. Did I understand that? Because
Yes,
they're
they
going to be
will.
learning about redlining and all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
So have you thought about maybe them as a collaborative project, kind of coming up with ideas as how they would renovate one of these homes based on, I mean, inspired by the information that they've gotten about Africa and how you talked about art and spirit, and, you know, it's actually functional art?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're saying that in real time, we currently hold our office. The Teaching Artists Institute is at the bottom of our artist in residence property on Oswego in Park Heights. Baba Jim has been there, so he has seen the renovations that we've done there. We're looking to expand to 3 more
I'm
properties.
talking about the children.
Yes. So we're saying that the young people themselves are going to be a part of this conversation. And so the blighted buildings that we're asking them to focus their creative energy on transforming will be the buildings that we want to transform.
Right.
And
But
so
will they be showing a display of their idea of how they would renovate that building?
yes. Well, it won't be individual. It'll be a collective.
That's what I was asking.
Yes,
But I
ma'am.
didn't see that necessarily at the end. You talked about an individual item that they will have, you know, that they will have worked on, carved. So that's what I was asking. Are they going to show anything, any kind of collaborative design of a house that's
Yes.
a typical house? So that is a part of what they will be working on and will show at the end.
Yes, and we're bringing in experts from the Neighborhood Design Center to help guide that conversation with them, because we're not architects, but we are spirit-led artists that understand and have an appreciation for African-centered architecture and design. And so we're hoping that together we can bring our conversation to the middle so that we can build a sustainable potential design that, even though we won't realize it by the end of the summer, this real design will be a real blueprint for us to renovate real properties on Oswego.
Okay, great. 'Cause I didn't necessarily understand that through your presentation, but that's great if you're going to do that, because I think it's definitely important.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
I know, Fola, that you're here just as a support to your dad, but you are a mental health expert. Is there anything from that vantage point you want to share about what we shared today that may benefit us? I hate to put you on the spot. Or maybe you're driving off into your next place. Baba Hakeem. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just even got out the car. Okay, I'm sorry. What was your question?
from your vantage point as a mental health expert, is there anything you want to weigh in on the program overview?
Yeah, no, I was just listening to everything. It sounds really great. I didn't realize how detailed all of this was. I hadn't been able to look through everything that was sent before. But I definitely would love to maybe at some point next week, when I return, come back and look at the, your location and meet with you in person, and just talk and see what I'm sorry for the noise in the background, but what I may be able to, oh gosh, hold on.
No problem.
I'm
Baba
standing
Haki.
outside and a fire truck just went past, but whatever I may be able to do, because I do also believe in the whole, even as a holistic health coach, mind, body, and soul. And so the fact that they're able to get this experience and how it can be connected with other parts of their just well-being and their growing, I think would be really good. So I'm excited actually just to be a part from afar. This is my dad's thing, but yes, I'm here.
Nice. Thank you, Fola. Baba Haki, any last words before we wrap up?
Well, what I can put in now is just to push, pray until something happens. That's all I can tell you to do now. We have to push, pray until something happens. I know it's happened already, that once we come together now in oneness, and every one of our mama, our daddy, our baba, our big mama, all of them, we come together now, we positively involved. I'm very sure it will happen.
Nice, nice. So I appreciate that. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for the time that you've given today. I'll be sure to send you the overview in writing of our curriculum design. And we're really excited that you're a part of the village for our inaugural Creative Carvers and Carpenters initiative. Thank you so much. And if there are no other words or closing remarks, then I'm going to say have a happy Sunday.
Thank you. Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
everybody. Have a happy
Thank
Sunday
you.
too.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.